U.S. attorney in Manhattan says the site illegally paid $440 million to its directors, money that the site allegedly took.
I feel, and I did take this money, and I'm not trying to make it right, Dan, so we got to get that out of the way right real quick.
In the high-stakes world of poker, what happens when trust is shattered, not once, but repeatedly, by a man who once sat atop the poker throne? This is the story of Russ Hamilton, a name that echoes through poker history, not for his triumphs, but for his serial deceptions. Russ Hamilton was a giant of the game, a man whose imposing physique and calm demeanor belied a calculating mind.
When I wanted to win the World Series of Poker. That was my goal. When I lived in Michigan 25 years ago, before I ever moved to Vegas, I read a magazine called Gambling Times. I would read these articles on what happened in the World Series. I kept saying, I want to win that. I would love to win the World Series of Poker.
In 1994, he achieved every poker player's dream, winning the World Series of Poker main event, securing $1 million prize and eternal glory.
Happy we all are to see a Las Vegas hometown guy win it.
Thank you.
And you did a very good job. You didn't make any bad moves, and you were a real gentleman about the whole thing.
He was a champion, a respected figure, and a consultant for emerging online poker sites. He was, to many, the epitome of a successful pro. But behind that respectable front was his very dark secret. The mid-2000s saw the explosion of online poker. Millions flocked to virtual tables.
He could bet 150,000 with top pair, or he could bet 150,000 with no pair, no nothing, or anything. You just didn't know where he was at.
Lured by the promise of easy money and the thrill of the game, and Russ Hamilton, leveraging his fame, became a consultant for Ultimate Bet UB, one of the leading sites. He was meant to be a guardian of the game's integrity, an ambassador of trust. Instead, he became its greatest betrayer. Players began to notice strange patterns. Accounts associated with Hamilton, particularly one named Absolute Montreal, were winning at statistically impossible rates in the highest stakes cash games. They seemed to possess an almost supernatural ability to make perfect decisions, as if they could see into their opponent's souls, or more accurately, their hole cards. The scheme was audacious. Hamilton, working with other insiders at UB, had access to a super user account and a God mode feature. This was no ordinary player account. It was a backdoor into the game, a digital peephole that allowed him to see opponents' hole cards in real time. While other players agonized over reads and probabilities, Hamilton played with perfect information, effortlessly picking off weak hands and avoiding traps.
What I saw did not make any sense. When the other person was bluffing, he would always go all in. When the other person had some kind of made hand, he would always fold.
The poker community, armed with sophisticated hand history analysis and statistical tools, began piecing together the anomalies. The sheer volume of improbable wins by certain accounts could not be dismissed as mere luck. The pressure mounted, and in 2008, the Kanawake Gaming Commission, the regulatory body for Ultimate Bet, launched an independent investigation. The KGC report confirmed the poker world's worst fears. Russ Hamilton was named as the primary beneficiary and mastermind of a cheating ring that had defrauded players out of at least $18 million, and later estimates pushed that figure to over $22 million. It was a staggering betrayal, a direct theft from the very players who fueled the online poker boom. The online poker landscape, built on trust, was irrevocably scarred.
Are you in any way associated with the UltimateBet.net super user cheating scandal?
And as the walls closed in on Hamilton from the super user scandal, his audacity seemed to know no bounds. During the very period when UB was reeling from the initial revelations and attempting to mitigate the damage, Hamilton was accused of yet another scheme, seemingly designed to squeeze every last dollar from the troubled site. The allegation was chilling. He orchestrated a fake tournament on Ultimate Bet.
And I did take this money, and I'm not trying to make it right, Dan, so we got to get that out of the way right real quick, okay?
This wasn't about cheating individual players in cash games, but effectively stealing directly from UB's own prize pools. The setup would involve a tournament where only Hamilton and a few trusted associates were secretly participating. They would then divvy up the prize money, ostensibly won from the tournament, without any legitimate competition. It was a brazen act, a desperate attempt to extract funds even as his world crumbled. While perhaps less widely publicized, publicized than the super user scandal, this accusation painted a picture of a man utterly devoid of ethical boundaries, willing to exploit any weakness for personal gain, even from the company he was meant to represent. The fallout from Russ Hamilton's reign of deception was catastrophic. For the online poker world, it was a moment of reckoning. Ultimate Bet was ultimately forced to repay approximately $20 million to the cheated players, a monumental sum that highlighted the scale of the fraud. Hamilton himself was stripped of his ownership stake in UB and permanently banned from the site, and indeed from virtually every legitimate online poker platform in existence. His descent from WSOP champion to poker pariah was swift and brutal. His face, once recognized for triumph, became a symbol of betrayal. While he never faced criminal charges, a point of contention and frustration for many in the poker community due to the complexities of online gambling laws across jurisdictions, the court of public opinion delivered a damning verdict. But Russ Hamilton's history of deception stretched back far further than the digital realm. Long before the online boom in the live poker rooms of the 1990s, Hamilton was already allegedly honing his dark craft. His live reputation, while perhaps not widely known to the public, was whispered among seasoned pros and casino personnel. He was reportedly implicated in multiple live cheating incidents. One of the most documented was his alleged ban from the prestigious Mirage Casino in Las Vegas in the 1990s. The accusation, collusion. Hamilton, along with other players, was accused of working together to cheat a third unsuspecting player. This involved subtle signals, sharing information, and manipulating betting patterns to gain an unfair advantage. Beyond collusion, there were whispers of his involvement in more tactile forms of cheating, marked card scams, and other illicit tactics employed in various casinos. His pattern of finding an edge was not a sudden descent into depravity, but a long-standing ingrained modus operandi. The online scandal, while massive, was merely a grander stage for a player who had long operated on the fringes of integrity, and in 2011, Russ Hamilton filed for bankruptcy, claiming debts that, ironically, were partly related to the very scandal that enriched him, though he attributed the losses to further gambling. His attempts to address the accusations were often convoluted, offering partial admissions mixed with excuses and deflection of blame, and he never offered a genuine, heartfelt apology to the countless players he defrauded. Russ Hamilton remains arguably the most infamous cheat in modern poker history, not just for the immense sum he stole, but for the profound breach of trust. He was an insider, a champion, a trusted figure who deliberately and systematically exploited his position to cheat the very community that celebrated him. He was an insider, a champion, a trusted figure who deliberately and systematically exploited his position to cheat the very community that celebrated him. His confirmed cheating across multiple contexts, the digital abyss of the super user, the shadowy corners of live collusion, and the audacious fake tournaments cemented his legacy not as a poker legend, but as its ultimate betrayer. His story is a stark reminder that in the unforgiving game of poker, cheating might offer a temporary edge, but it will always eventually deal you the coldest of decks. Share your thoughts in the comments down below and subscribe to see more.